and it let out this blood-curdling, guttural scream.
On the side of the road, he sees a deer carcass and something eating on it, which he thought was a bear. And as the lights hit it, it stood up. And, like, this gives me chills talking about it. He said it stood up and it had the face of a man.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. I'm your host, Bryan Sawyer, coming at you. This is episode 18. Now, I've been really excited about this episode because our guest today is a guy by the name of Rockin Randy Stewart. He is the owner, producer of the Channel 12 TV network out of Las Vegas, streaming platform. It's just picking up so much steam. He contacted me, asked me to be a part of his show, concerning Bigfoot. And now I'm on with the NCI team, which is the North Carolina Investigators, where we talk about everything paranormal. I kind of represent Michigan, and what's really cool about Randy's show here is that we dig so deep into the paranormal. But it's fantastic. But without further ado, I want to give a quick kind of introduction. Randy Stewart here. He's been a TV host, a singer, comedian, concierge for the stars and their charities, an ex-pro wrestler, a music promoter. The list goes on and on. So right now I want to bring Randy on, and we're going to dig deep into the Channel 12 TV network, all of his paranormal connections and the shows he has on the Channel 12 TV network, and then even his own personal encounters that apply to the paranormal field. So let's get Randy on right now. Hey, Randy, you there?
Hey, buddy, good to see you. Long time since yesterday.
Exactly, man. I have been so excited to get you on the show because you are a giver. I'll tell you right now. You are not just about yourself, though. I read your bio there, just some of the stuff that you do your whole life. You've been in the spotlight. But now with your Channel 12 TV network, you're a giver in the sense that you get a hold of quality people and you assist them, you help them to get to that next level. So do me a favor, because I'm even learning, we haven't been friends that long, but man, you are a close friend already. So kind of give us, thank you, sir. So kind of give us a background, how you even, because like me, I'm an actor off on the side as well. So you're an entertainer like I am. So go back to when it all kind of started, up through your childhood, whatever, and into the wrestling and all of that to where we are today. So go for it. I'm going to shut up.
All right. Well, as a kid, most kids start out saying mommy and daddy. I say, my words were MOCKEYMOUSC. It was the first words I learned, and I sang that. And my mother had a problem. I didn't talk. I would sing. Could I have a glass of water? She said, no, tell me, can I have a glass? Can I have a glass? She goes, stop that. Quit singing. Everything I did was singing. So music just kind of came from the soul from day one. And as I got older, I went to high school, and I was in the school choir and school plays and, some music. I used to do an Elvis impersonation show.
Nice.
I did a Johnny Cash, Neil Diamond, Conway Twitty, and I would do a 90-minute show with stuff like that. And, it's just entertaining has always been my life. I love to entertain. And, I was on two networks, ABC, CBS in Florida. I had a talk show, and then I had a cable network show. And it's like a bug. It hits you. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I love to perform. I do magic. I do impersonations. I do stand-up comedy. I sing, and it's just entertainment is my life. And having Channel 12 TV network, when I moved to Vegas, it was like, how can I make this better? And I thought about it because I have a radio station also, WROK Radio FM here in Vegas, which also streams worldwide. And
Nice.
And so if anybody's out there and you can't get a spot on a radio show, send me the stuff at WROK Radio FM, WROK TV Las Vegas at gmail.com, and I'll put your music up. Same way, I love to bring new shows to Channel 12. I met going to podcast was not a upgrade because I couldn't get an entertainment license in Vegas. So I started doing podcast shows home on my radio station, and there's a lot of people like yourself and musicians and book writers and producers of independent films that they're showing the stuff on YouTube, and it's not getting anywhere. It's not helping them make any money. It's not helping them let people see what they really truly are. And there's so many great individuals out there who make movies, songs, and write great books like our buddy George Lunsford. He's got 3 books out. Number one,
without a doubt.
Super, super nice guy. He's on the NCI show with you and I host that show. And I'll tell you what, when we started out, we went from podcast, which I said was not an upgrade, it was a downgrade. But when I was doing podcast shows, it was the friends and people I made on the way back to where I'm at today.
Right.
I met George. Matter of fact, I call it our anniversary. On the 6th of this month was the first show him and I did together.
Oh, cool.
And I said, George, today's our anniversary. I said, you didn't even buy me flowers, George, But
right.
But the people I met doing the podcast show, I brought them to Channel 12 because they all had a quality. Everybody had their story. And, it's a great bunch of people on Channel 12 TV network. You coming to NCI was such a big hit for us because with all the experience you have being in Michigan, we can compare notes from what's from Michigan to North Carolina or Florida or Virginia. And, you're a big asset to us on the Channel 12 TV network and onto the NCI show. And you are our great friend. I mean, you're nothing but friend. You're a family member. I shouldn't even say you're a family member first, a friend second, if that makes any sense to you, because, you're such a great person. And I'm not blowing up your skirt, but anybody that knows you, man, you're on the money. Your questions are always there. You're a very educated, intelligent man in what you do. And we're tickled to death to have you with us.
Hey, I'll tell you, Randy, because like when you first approached me to be on the show, I'm like, okay, cool. But immediately there was the chemistry there.
Yes.
There was a camaraderie, kind of like the same vision. And then your vision for like, hey, let's get different people from different parts of the nation and bring them in. Because, to me, that's genius. Because you are, like, I always say, I'm collecting the data, that's here in Michigan. And sometimes out of Michigan, with you and your platform, we're collecting the paranormal data from, around the nation, if not from around the world. So I believe it's going to get bigger and bigger. Is that kind of what you saw? Like, you saw kind of like this little spark that could turn into this huge, big inferno.
Oh, yes. Well, I first met you on the Tracy Jones show, the Paranormal White Witch. And I was so impressed. I was so impressed with you as her guest. I told Tracy, give me his number. I want to talk to this guy. I got to get him on my show. I need this guy. And she goes, why? I said, he sparked my interest when you talk. You sparked the interest. I said, there's something about this guy I really like. And she goes, all right, I'll fix it up. And then I had you on the NCI show, and those guys saw the same thing. It's like a man and woman when they meet. The chemistry, you were that chemistry that just kept adding to it. And the chemistry is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we have Tracy Jones, a Paranormal White Witch. She's part of the NCI team. And there's a lot of paranormal things that happen in the woods that people can't explain. It's not always Bigfoot. It's not always a dog man. It's not always a werewolf. It's not always an alien. It could have been dead people, Indians, wars, things that we don't understand. And it's good to have a paranormal. I call her my pocket witch. She's she's only about 4'9". She's my little
I didn't know,
bitch.
I didn't know that. I haven't met her in person yet, but we're going to.
Yes, I call her my little Care Bear. It's don't piss off the Care Bear. She's my little. Her and I've been working together almost a year now, and I've learned a lot of things from her. But we all learn from each other, and that's what makes the show nice.
Yeah, I mean, with her, I think I maybe had heard the term elemental maybe one other time in some movie or something. And then she's so knowledgeable. Her show, she's speaking about, well, that's an elemental. We're describing, or our guests are describing what they've seen and what it might be. And she, right off the bat, well, that's an elemental. And then she gives a description. And so, she's got more of I think, extensive knowledge into, what would you call it? The interdimensional or spiritual or man.
I'm not going to explain this, and a lot of people don't understand this. You can't wake up one day and say, I'm going to buy some sage and I'm going to be a witch.
Right.
Tracy was born a witch. She was born with a hairy veil, like a fine line hair veil. And her family's mediums, witches, so it runs in her bloodline. So when she was a baby, standing up on the crib, she would talk to people. And they're like, who's she talking to?
Wow.
She was born a witch.
Okay.
And she's a good witch, and she doesn't do spells. She wears if I have a problem, I call her up. We'll try this and this. She'll listen to you. And that's what we project on her show. If you got a problem, call her. If you think there's something in your house that you can't get rid of, you can't explain, we'll try to debunk it. And she's super, super nice. She's one of my best friends. She's like my sister. And she was born a witch. Some of these people we have on our shows, who come on our shows, tell me they are witches. And I've had some really bad black witches on her show, and my show, that would tell me things. And, and I'm like, oh, Tracy, I need help. I got you, honey. I got your back, And I've had some witches call me on the phone and say, you're this and that, and you've got these powers. I say, yeah, I know I have certain powers. I see certain things that people can't see. I see disasters. And I'll call Tracy, what do you think this is? She goes, write it down. Just don't tell everybody about it because, they might put you in the FBI building or something like that. But, it is what it is. And that's what I like bringing to our shows. Even Tracy's show or NCI show. We all have something to offer because we're different people, but we have such a passion for what we do.
Yeah. And you know what? It's really, this is going to sound corny, but it's very truthful. It's a therapeutic platform because all of us together as a collective have had so many different types of experiences that it's almost therapy. I mean, who else I hadn't told too many people about my fairy sighting, because it's like Bigfoot sightings. You don't want people to think you're crazy, but I was able to come on your guys' show and tell everyone that, okay, almost like a recovering alcoholic, hey, everybody, I saw a fairy, and what do I do now? Because prior to my sighting of a fairy, it wasn't on my radar, is what I say. It sounds corny, but I'm a guy. I'm an auto worker. I'm rebuilding this house. I'm out there, so I'm not watching fairy stuff on YouTube's channels or any kind of fairy movies. So if I were to label, one interdimensional being as the least likely for me to think of, it would have been a fairy.
Right.
And boom, that happens. And I really hadn't told too many people, and I was kind of able to get that out. So that was actually, like I say, not to sound too corny, but a lot of therapy. I mean, just even with George Lunsford going, hey, they're real. Hey, they're real. Because it's like, what are you talking about? Fairies are real. That's Peter Pan stuff. And so
fairies are real. Fairies are real. A lot of fairies are in the woods. They call them wood fairies. And I didn't believe in it either. But I've seen, pictures and stuff like that and talking to Tracy. And, what you see in movies, what they're gearing us up is showing us what's really out there. Now, you take it and believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You believe in Bigfoot? Well, most people say, no, I don't believe in Bigfoot till they see one. or they hear something they can't explain. You with the fairy, the fairy story. I've heard that story. I showed some pictures the other day of someone had hit there was a dead fairy on his car. They had hit it. I don't know if you got to see it, but they picked it up, and when it hit like a bug. You know what I'm saying? It kind of and they peeled it off, and you could see her little legs and everything else. And again, believer, it's like faith in God. You believe in God? Well, yes, I do. Oh, no, I don't. It's what you have faith in your heart and you believe. And, I didn't talk about Bigfoot. And I hadn't seen Bigfoot since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
You and I have had this discussion. Out of the group, you and I are the only two that actually heard it speak.
Yeah.
And when I first told the guys that, they go, okay, Rand. Then when you came on and you said what you did, they're like, oh, shit, maybe he's not crazy.
Well, hey, do me a favor for my audience. Why don't you recount that sighting and what happened?
I was about 4 or 5 years old, and my parents used to take us to my grandparents' house in Waverly, Tennessee. And my grandfather, would plow the fields up and stuff like that. It was one of those aluminum houses with a tin roof on it, They still had the outhouse outside. And I always liked to ride on the mule. So I would run across the road to the field, and my grandfather put me up on the mule, unhook it from the plows or whatever he was using, and I'd ride the mule back to the barn. Well, that night it started lightning outside, heat lightning. My grandfather says, you can't get on the mule because lightning can strike you up to 20 miles away. Hot animals get struck. So as we're walking to the field, to the barn, it's like, like a strobe light. We see something, and now these are the barn doors that slide this way. It's got the top of the barn, and it's shaking the barn.
Wow.
And my grandfather says, whatever, the mule went one way and we went another way. And my grandfather was running so fast that the toes of my shoes were the only thing touching the ground. I mean, he was literally pulling me in the air running. And the houses in Tennessee have that whole porch that goes to front. It's about a 8-inch, 10-inch step up, wooden boards, He runs in, and it's one of those old screen doors, all wood. And then it had that piece of metal ran from corner to corner with a little wood strip in the center. And it had the old that. He flings that open. He goes, the hairy man's coming. And my uncles go, what? He goes, the hairy man's coming. And when it happened, I was in the living room. I was sitting probably 10 feet away from the front door. And Bigfoot ripped the door off the hinges.
Oh, my goodness.
And my grandfather and my uncle shot it several times with 12-gauge shotguns, right? All I could see is from here down. I couldn't see shoulders up. That's how large it was. And it fell backwards, like one of these. It fell backwards, and when it hit the ground, it was like watching a strobe movie. Whoa, 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 real slow. They ran out there with flashlights. It was gone. No blood, no nothing, which it hadn't rained. And the ground's hard in Tennessee. It's that clay. Well, right after that, they told us, it was a bear trying to get in the house. Well, about maybe 4 or 5 days after that, maybe even a little longer, the homes in Tennessee had those big feather beds. When you're a kid, it's like climbing a mountain to get in it, And the windows were low, and I kept smelling the stink. I'm like, did my brother just crap the bed? And I said, something bad. And I kept hearing, oh. So I got to get out of bed and look. So I got out of bed and look, and I'm standing probably about 10 to 15 feet, because right beside the house was a dirt driveway and a wood pile, because they had one of those old cast iron stoves you had to put the wood in to cook on.
Yeah.
And he was eating persimmons off the tree. And I said, I'm standing there looking at this thing. I had no idea. To me, it looked like a big monkey I'd seen in the zoo. That's all I could tell you. And it turned, and when I don't know if I sniffled or what, but it turned and looked me dead in the eyes. And its eyes looked like reflectors on a bicycle. I'll never forget it. To this minute, I can still see it. And it said, stay, bad snakes. Stay away, bad snakes. No wood. It was like chopped up words. and it was telling me to stay away because there was rattlesnakes that hang out in that places. And I'm like,
Epic.
yeah, stay away, bad snake, you know. So my mother comes and she goes, "What are you doing?" I says, "Talking to that bear or gorilla. Get back in bed." So she puts me in bed, and the next morning I get up because they get up at 5:00 in the morning there, you know, because it's the way the farmers do. And I said, "Grandpa, there was a bear." Nah, you were dreaming. You know, they didn't tell me what it was. My brother and I were outside playing. The ball went by the wood pile. I reached for the ball, and I got bit right there on the top of my hand by a rattlesnake.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah, that is so reminiscent. Just how you said, just how you described how that Sasquatch spoke. The same thing. I mean, I'm looking out the window where it happened right here. It's broken, but not too broken, Stay away, snakes. Mine was thanks for friendship. Not thank you for your friendship, but thanks
Right.
for friendship, and then Scout. He was telling me his name. Yeah, so that is amazing. So similar.
It's
Oh my
it's like
goodness.
the movies when you see the Indians talk. Make peace. You know, many
Yes.
moons come by, sun drop. You know and that's the way it sounded when he talked to me. It was like an Indian talking to me with broken English,
Wow.
trying to put words
Yeah.
together to make a sentence. And I mean, I had other sightings growing up in New York. My last sighting I had and saw Bigfoot slap the house and steal two of our deer. It was 2016 in November. So as a kid seeing Bigfoot, and backing up when I got in the ninth grade, my grandfather was over 100 years old. He was a little boy during the Civil War. And he would tell me stories about the Civil War and Jesse James and this and that. Frank James was a marshal of his town that he was one of the first settlers. And I said, "Grandpa, what was that big bear when I got bit in my hand?" He goes, "That was the hairy man." See, they call it the hairy man there. And I says, "Yeah." He says, "That's why we weren't allowed to get off the porch and leave the yard, excuse me, or play in the woods behind the well because it was a big hill. Because my
Wow.
grandma was afraid that the hairy man would snatch us." And he said, "Do you remember Grandma used to take every night, she'd take a chicken, she'd snap its neck, and she would set it on the well. And that was her offering to Bigfoot for watching over her grandkids."
Wow.
And
Awesome.
here's something that'll really freak you out. My grandfather had lots of money as a farmer and logger. At the top of the hill, there was a big gully dug out, and that's where everybody threw their garbage. Well, he would go there and find old bicycles and skateboards and scooters and put them back together, and he would sell them to the kids, especially back then. The blacks didn't have a lot, and he'd put a bicycle at 50 cents. I said, "We'll give it to him for free." No, 50 cents, $1. Just, gives people responsibility. So I said, "Can I go with you?" And he goes, "No, you can't." I said, "Come on." I begged and I screamed and I kicked the truck. Well, he took me. And when we got up there, he had raw chicken. And he had a little bottle about that big. It looked like what do you call it? Vanilla comes in with a cork. And he would take the chicken, he'd take the bottle, he'd put it to that and go like this and lay the chicken down all the way around where we were standing.
Wow.
So I asked him, I says, "What's the deal with the chicken in the bottle?" He said, "If the hairy man was to come and watch us or try to hurt us, hopefully he would pick up the food." And he goes, and he would put him to sleep right away.
Wow. So your
And I said,
grandfather, I mean, it was basically an ongoing relationship with this
"Yes."
Sasquatch.
"Oh, yeah." I asked him where the bottle come from. He said from the mountain witches would make these potions to keep the animals in line. My cousin got bit by a copperhead snake at a party. She didn't say nothing. She got so sick that her hair was falling out of her head. My grandfather went up into the woods, came back with a little brown bottle, made her drink it. In a few hours, the poison was out of her, and her hair came back like Farrah Fawcett.
Ho, 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 ho.
So when they
Wow.
talk about mountain witches, they did exist. I'm sure they still exist. But
Yeah.
my grandfather knew how to keep Bigfoot under control, And I tell people, if you want to catch one, I can tell you how to catch one. But if you catch one, I don't want it to be harmed. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to kill it, to be examined or prove. It's okay. Here's what it is. Let's solve the mystery. It's for real. Put the government in check so people really know the truth. And that's what I'm about on my shows. I want the truth. And when you do a show on Channel 12, we're uncut, we're unedited, we're unscripted, and we're raw. As you know, we don't cut anything out.
Yeah.
And when we laugh, you know what we're laughing about. And boy, we go on.
That is one thing we do a lot is laugh. And that's a good thing. And I love that nobody is censored, and then just even the NCI team, the different dynamics of each individual member of that team. I mean, how to cite talent, to see talent when it's amazing. And so that's what attracted me to you, to them, to Tracy. It's like, wow. What a team. Because I do believe in the saying, no man's an island, and you're better to be a part of a team, or in the acting world, we call it an ensemble. And now, my goodness, man, we're hitting between all of us. We're hitting every subject. What other kind of paranormal visitations, I guess you could say, or things have you come across? Because now we get a better idea why you're so fueled to do this type of programming.
Well, let me go before I start. I want to say something on our shows. I don't care if it's NCI show or if it's Tracy's show, and we all meet in a room, whatever it is. I see the ratings. I do Nielsen ratings, so I know what show's doing. I don't tell anybody your show's better than that, because we all put our pants on the same, and no one is a superstar. We're all stars together.
Yep.
I'm no better than you. Tracy's no better than me. I keep everybody on an even keel. And that's what Channel 12 is about, being a family and keeping an even keel.
Very cool, man. And you're always helping us. You're always helping us, giving us direction, what to do, what not to do. And boy, yeah, because I see this thing growing and growing. And, hopefully we'll get to do conferences together, and, we're all across America. Hopefully, I can't wait till we're all together in one room.
Well, you know something? We've got a studio now in England, and we have a studio now in Ireland, which our shows, which Channel 12 airs over there on Roku and Fire Stick. But the overseas is saying, hey, we want American TV. How do we get there? So we're getting to be we are the largest streaming television station. And I tell people, if you got I like to cut and edit. I don't do that. I want people to see my mistakes. If I choke on a word, I blame the coffee, or I might slip of the F word, whatever it may be. I blame it on something. Just keep rolling,
Yeah, exactly.
But as far as the paranormal goes, I've had many paranormal experiences in hospitals, in jails. But I think the one that would tops all of them is I'm an evangelist preacher, and I don't act like one, because I don't want to be too famous.
Right.
I don't act like an evangelist preacher.
You're wonderful, Randy. Go ahead.
Really, I believe in God. I lead people to the Lord. My wife, we're Christians, so that's the way we are. But there was a time where my wife came to me. She says, I have blue eyes. She goes, your eyes are black. You have no soul. She goes, I can see you have no soul. I'm like, get the hell out of here. What are you talking about? And I was reading the Bible at this time.
Okay.
And she came out and she said something about it. And it went off inside me, like, kill her. And
wow.
I literally chased her down the hallway to the end bedroom, and she knew I was coming for her. And she shut the door. Now, she weighs $120 soaking wet. And I'm trying to open the door. Finally, I opened up the door, and her little hand, she's about 4'9". Her little hand grabbed me like Bruiser's, the Crusher's hand, like a wrestler. She had her hand on my head, and I'm sitting here trying to pull her hand off my head. And then when she touched me, it was like, I was like this. And I'm like trying to pull and pull, because the meanness in me was just coming out. Like, you got to kill this woman. And the more I pulled, the more she started rebuking. Satan, I want you out of my house, Papa, in the name of Jesus. I get touched when I tell the story. This, she's just rebuking. I could not pull her hand off my head. And the more she did, the closer I got to the ground. I was on my knees. On my knees. And I'm still pulling. I'm like, I'll kill you. And she's still preaching. All of a sudden, I started dry heaving. Like, bleh, bleh. I'm feeling sick now because I'm like getting nauseated with her hand on my head. And that's why I was when I was standing up. All of a sudden, I let out this burp. Like, it was the nastiest garbage smell I've ever smelled. Worse than Bigfoot. And I've smelled a lot of it came out of me, and it was like just as like a black smoke come out. And it was like almost like watching a movie. And she still kept preaching, even after I let out that burp. And all of a sudden, I just started crying, weeping. I weep for days. I felt like something came out of me. My body, it was like, I'm 280 pounds. It was like I was like I could fly. My arms were like, do you ever put your arms against something and they try to like lift up? I felt like it was weird. And I wept and I wept and I wept. I couldn't watch a TV program. I start crying. I sing gospel music. I couldn't sing a gospel song without seeing these, visions of Jesus being killed on the cross. I would start crying, and it was tough because I did have a demon inside me, and she pulled it out. And that was probably the worst demon. When people say demons cannot enter your body, I firsthand have seen it.
Oh, I believe it.
She's in the other doubt. And I don't tell that story to too many people before, but now to me, it's like a testimony for people to believe in God or not believe in God. There are demons out there. There are spirits that will hurt you. It was a big testimony for me. I've seen ghosts commit. I had a stroke, and they were going to put me in a nursing home. And they had me in a bed. My whole left side was paralyzed. And on a Friday night, I was taking my right arm and pulling my left leg on a sheet, pulling my leg up and down because you go to therapy, round circle, square box, doing your hands.
Right.
I want to walk. I'm like, Lord, you can't do this to me. Lord, you got to help me. Come on, Jesus, I'll give you the power and the glory. And I'd put a rag around my wrist. I'd pull my arm over my head to exercise across my shoulders. So much I was bleeding from the sheet and on my leg from pulling one leg up. And that Friday night, I had this dream. I don't know what you want to call it, dream, but a woman walked into my room and she said, on the Sabbath day, you're going to leave here. You'll be better. I'm telling you, it's over with. You're going to get up and walk out of here. Well, Saturday come and I'm still in the bed, and Sabbath day is Saturday. Well, we're not supposed to really do anything. I fell asleep. I told the nurses, hey, it's the medicine. It's the medicine. Well, I had to go pee. I got up and I ran to the bathroom. I couldn't walk before. I got up and I ran to the bathroom. I was sitting there going pee in the toilet, and my alarms went off on my bed, and the nurse runs in. She goes, get back in bed. You can't walk. I'm like, I'm going pee. Leave me alone. It's a natural response. You know what I'm saying? You got to pee. You go. Get back in bed. I'm calling security. I'm like, I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, whoa, that wasn't a dream. I could walk. I could talk. My face was like this. That was gone.
Okay. Wow.
And that was an angel. The security came back and threw me in the bed and was tying me down. I said, I'll start whipping some asses right here. Get the doctors. The doctors came in. Oh, we cured you. It was a miracle. I said, no, God cured me, not you.
That's right. That's right. Hey, with that in mind, no, let's go back. Wow, you really sparked something, because one thing, we're usually doing business and talking and all that kind of stuff. I get visited, at least once a month by the dark side, and they're either threatening me or, promising me something or whatever. So I can totally relate. What do you know if there was a moment? Because one of the last threatenings, since we're on the Christian kind of narrative, one of the last time, well, the latest was the giant. Did I tell you about this, Randy?
I don't
Um,
think so.
so the latest dream, and then I'll tell you the one before.
Okay.
The latest dream, I'm at my house. Now, I've told you many times the Bigfoot have been probably to my house maybe 3 times.
Mhm.
Now, this is not to equate Bigfoot with demons or anything like this because I think they're different. I think Bigfoot are like people. There's some good ones, some bad ones. We
Absolutely.
just don't know. But that's kind of how I think. There's probably some good ones, some bad ones, just like us humans. Well, this particular dream, it's funny because I was kind of asking, I've had the mind speak. And so, um, they had thanked me for friendship and told me their name was Scout. And then one of the things is I was saying to them is, hey, is there one of you individuals that would like to meet? Because I would like to know your story if you want to share your story. I'm
Right.
an actor, I'm a storyteller. That's what we do. We want to know what makes people tick and how they've become what they are now. Well, it sounds crazy, but so that was kind of what I was asking the Bigfoot. But then that night, I have a dream, and this is to me the demonic side of things. I do believe now that they can read your thoughts. They know the time before us and they know a lot of what's going to happen in the future. So, anyways, I'm sitting at the window of my house, and this, what I would call a wicked liaison, kind of a midget potato looking blob type deal, comes walking up to my window and he won't give me eye contact. And he says to me, he will meet with you, but you have to give up your moose head. And I'm like, but I'm in the dream, I'm like in war mode. I'm very attentive. I'm looking at him and I say, who's he? And he points over to my property line. And just outside of my line is this huge giant, like a human giant, okay? Like a Paul Bunyan, just probably 12 to 15 feet tall, built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he's standing there, but he won't actually, he was sitting, but he wouldn't look at me either. So neither of these beings or demons, whatever, who knows what they were, um, wanted to give me eye contact. And
Right.
then, and I kept looking at him intently, back and forth, and they would keep looking away. They'd look at me maybe when I wasn't looking at them. They would not get eye contact with me. And I said, Moosehead, what do you mean, Moosehead? And he said it again. He will meet with you, but he says you have to give up your moose head. I wake up from the dream.
Right.
I've never heard that terminology before. I look up moose head and what that symbolizes, and that symbolizes strength, grace, and even spiritual authority.
I would say it was evil.
Yeah. So as Christians, you and I both know God give us our authority through the name of Jesus, and these
Through
things are
grace,
not allowed.
yeah, through grace, he gave us that power.
Amen. Amen. So of course, once I looked that up, I'm like, no, I'm not giving up, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. So these entities or demons, whatever they are, like I said, I get a visit probably once a month. The last one was kind of threatening me, saying he was going to possess me. Okay. And what
Yeah,
you
that,
said made me think of it. So was there a time um when you do you like remember back to the moment when maybe you got possessed, or was that just a
yeah.
temporary thing that happened? So tell me more about that.
You know something? um, First of all, if you want to keep the demons from you, you can put salt in all 4 corners of your house. You can put salt as around your building, and demons
Okay.
will stop.
Yeah, we anoint our doorways with the olive oil and all that and pray in the name of Jesus. But go ahead.
Yes. My first experience I actually had with a ghost. I was in Illinois, and they had a warrant for me in the state of New York. I got pulled over for speeding, and I'm thinking, "Oh Lord, you got to get me out of this. This is not good." So I came up with. I was at the time I was going to wrestling school, I said, hey, you guys got a newspaper? And they said, yeah. So I got the newspaper, 2 jail cells, and I set the paper on the floor and I kicked it. I did a wrestling fall, but I meant to hit the floor and I hit my head on the back of the bars and knocked me colder than dog snack. Well, they took me to the hospital and they said they're going to take me to Cook County Hospital from the hospital to another hospital. They were going to extradite me back to New York. Well, that's not a place you want to be. My feet are chained up. My hands are chained to the bed like this. Handcuff on each side. And there was a guard sitting in the doorway. You know, they put the curtain all the way around you.
Mm-hmm.
He was sitting there. And this old woman, the guy went like this. And this old woman walked in. And she says, hi, how are you? I says, good. Who are you? Now, she's talking to me. When a nurse would come in, that guard would wake up. What's going on? What are you talking about? He never woke up. And she says, do you believe in God? I said, yes. She says, well, I'm really hungry. I said, well, here, take my tray because I can't eat. My hands are tied. They wouldn't even give me, unleash me. So, which was kind of weird. So she took the food. I said, take it off. She put it in her purse. And she says, let's pray. I said, okay, we'll pray. My hand's out of the handcuff. She's got my hand. And she starts praying. And she says, Lord Jesus, this and that, blah, 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 blah. And, we're praying. And she says, thank you. And she says, I said, hey, wait, before you leave, I said, could you call my mother and let her know where I'm at? She goes, she already knows. Okay. The woman walks past the guard, and a nurse and her pass between each other. Like
oh my gosh.
Walked through the nurse. That's all I can say. Is, when the nurse came in, the guard goes, what are you doing? She goes, well, he's got to eat. I'm checking his tray. And he goes, did you eat? I go, no. Well, you had me handcuffed. How'd you get out of that handcuff? I said, that lady got my hand out. What lady? And the nurse says, excuse me? I said, yeah, you walked in and she walked out. She goes, honey, nobody walked past me. I'm thinking, oh, whoa.
Oh.
The woman left me a book of the Apostle Job. She said to read this, and she goes, you'll be okay. So they put me in the jail cell upstairs in the hospital room, and I'm the only white guy in there. I'm scared to death. I'm still chained to the bed. And that night, I got visited again. And they said, on the Sabbath day, you're going to leave here. I'm like, okay, whatever. Sure enough, Saturday night at 9 o'clock, the guard walks up. He goes, Stewart, out. I'm like, I ain't leaving. I said, I'll be getting shot in the back. No, you can go. I'm like, I'm not leaving until my lawyer tells me I can leave. Go, you got to get. I'm like, no, I'm not going. And I had no cell phone, no one to talk. They literally pushed me out the door. And I said, are you guys going to fingerprint me? No, just go. Just go. I'm like, okie dokie. I got out. Her name was Rose. The woman told me her name was Rose. And years after that, whenever I had a difficult time, this Rose would appear and talk to me.
Wow.
And the last time I seen Rose, and I think I believe Rose wasn't an angel. I believe she was a demon.
Oh.
And I believe she was trying to trick me to pull me to her side. Because when I moved here to Las Vegas, I lived up on the west side by the mountains. And I put cameras in my house because my roommate said, oh, man. I said, where's the dirty dishes coming here all the time? It's not me. Okay, whatever. Well, I put security cameras in every room. The very first night, I saw a ball come out of my mirror. It turned into a ribbon, and it flew right up to my camera like this and fluttered. It went to every camera in my house and did that. Well, I look at the time and it's like 2:35 in the morning. Okay, I don't say nothing to nobody. Next day, same time between 2 and 3, ball comes out, does its thing through the house. Well, the one day when I get up, I'm looking at the camera, and I remember I was talking to somebody in my sleep, My bedroom door had French doors. It closed. That ball comes out, does its thing. It goes upstairs, comes back downstairs. It gets to my door. You remember the old Bela Lugosi movies where he would turn from a bat to like a cartoon guy and stand up?
Yes.
That's what happened. That's what happened at my door.
Oh my goodness.
Bro, it walks. It's like the light couldn't go through the door, but when it shadowed itself, all I could think of when I saw the video the next morning was the old witch from Sleeping Beauty, how she's all crunched over,
Yes.
and it walked through the door. And I remember holding a conversation, talking like you and I are talking, and I woke up in the middle, like 5 o'clock. I was sitting on the edge of the bed like this, just talking, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Was I talking? It's like it was a dream. It was too real.
Right.
And I called Jimmy Swagger and a couple other preachers. I said, listen, I need help. I got to get rid of this. Because my roommate said upstairs that night, he was so scared. There was a naked, white, cold woman laying in his bed next to him.
Whoa.
I said, and I'm being funny when I say this, as I was at the time. I said, well, did you get any ghostly, you know what? And he said, no, I pulled the blankets over my head and I was praying, Jesus. And he said, and when I kept praying, he goes, when I saw it was daylight, I could hear the birds, I pulled the blankets down. So he told me that, and I had that experience. Well, I had called, and they said, Randy, what you got to do is stand in front of your house, open the door, say this prayer, and pronounce them. They have to, this ghost has to leave. I did that. As I walked in the house to turn around to shut the door, it grabbed me by the back of my head, like it, you grab somebody, hit them, and throw them.
Uh-huh.
It threw me about 8-10 feet across my ceramic tiles, and the door slammed.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm thinking either it didn't leave and it got inside me and it waited all that time. Because, I'm a good person, but, things happen. And what's really weird is when my wife did that, that's the only time I feel that maybe it entered me. You know what I'm saying? It's been sitting just dormant all this time.
Right. She got it out.
Yeah, she got it out. I think it got to the
Wow.
point. And I don't know. I've had witches on Tracy's show. I'll show them to you. You can see my hand. You see the M's on my hand?
Uh-huh.
Okay. See the M's on my hand?
Yeah.
If you have M's on both hands, it means you have almost like shaman powers. If you only have it on one hand, you're not blessed. You have
Well, it looks pretty close to both.
Well, if you have two on your hand, then that might be the reason why Bigfoot's speaking to you. These ghostly things are coming to you because you got to remember something. I'll explain it to you this way. It's like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. They're the bad force, but they need the good force to make them stronger.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's great. It's crazy because I don't know if I told you my angel story. Long story short, there's a moment in my life where I'm with two groups of my buddies, and we're talking about getting drunk and going to Cedar Point. That's a big thing out here in Michigan. As you go down to Sandusky, Ohio, and go to Cedar Point, and you party down. And I was going on my way there, and I had a visit from an angel in a McDonald's. And basically, the angel told me, "Hey, you're not living right," and then disappeared right in front of my eyes. So there was that, and then after that, I've had cloaked entities follow me from house to house, and even like you said, it literally grabbed you. Well, this one literally punched me in the chest.
Yeah.
You know, so you have that, and then like I said, I have the monthly threats. It seems, but then I have the good things. I wake up to the voice of the Lord in the morning. And
Amen.
He's waking me up, and we get it that the Holy Spirit's on us, and we get that sense, that feel of what the future is going to be like, what heaven's going to be like, and everything is right as rain. There's that ultimate peace, and I think we've been brought together to kind of shine the light, to maybe sound the alarm a little bit. That because now listen to us going back and forth and how openly we're talking about it.
Right.
In the old days, when I was a kid, even when we were in the kid in the 70s, you didn't talk about this stuff. You're
No.
crazy. Not
Right.
even in the 80s, but now that veil, it's getting acceptable to talk about this stuff, whether it be UFOs or aliens, regardless of what all you think all these different paranormal alien entities, whatever you want to call them, are. But now we're shining the light on it. Now we're having open conversations about it. Now people can decide for themselves what they want to believe these things are. And I think that's a huge step in the right direction rather than being told to shut up, you're crazy, you're out of
Right.
mind, you know.
Well,
So,
you know yourself, everybody in the NCI teams are very religious,
yes.
you know? And so the flock will stay together. You know, you're a religious person. You brought to us.
Yep.
You bring your religious experience. I bring mine. Tim, he knows the Bible. Survivor man, you know, big religious guy. I mean, we're all, you know, even Tracy being a witch, she still believes that Jesus died on the cross for her sins. It's just something that she's
Awesome.
got, you know, that was set upon her. But, you know, I've been to stores, like in the mall, you have those little jewelry stores and stuff. I went to buy a gold bracelet. The closer I got to this woman, the colder I got. And you're in a mall. There are no cold spots in a mall.
Mm.
And the closer I got to that booth, I mean, when I got there, I'm like, oh, this is, you got the air in this place? And she goes, no. And then I said, oh, and I backed up. As I backed up, I could feel the air. I felt the temperature change.
Wow.
So
And then,
so I backed up a few more steps and it got warmer. And then I got closer and it got colder. I said, there's something about you. It's not right. And she says, well, I'm a witch. I said, have a nice day.
wow. So you throwing witches, but then like I've been on the LA Marzulli show a couple of times lately, and if you follow him, he's been talking about hybrids. Okay. I'm glad where I'm right now. Randy, we haven't had a chance to talk. So LA Marzulli is talking about hybrids, right? And he's talking about hybrids in the alien sense, where the aliens are coming down, and we know that narrative. So I have a guy I just talked to yesterday. He was being coerced by a clan of Sasquatch to have sex. I know this is crazy stuff. This is not me.
I
To
probably
have
got the letter.
and this is out there, people. So anybody listening, this is out there. But the clan of Sasquatch were mind speaking to him, trying to coerce him to have sex with the female, one of the female Sasquatch, to have offspring. Now, with that said, okay, we believe there's good Bigfoot and bad Bigfoot. I'm assuming that these were bad Bigfoot and wanting to make a hybrid, because in the Bible, we'll touch on this really quick. Where's my notes here? So, Revelation 6:8 talks about one of the angels having the power of death. And one of the tools of death, you've got the plagues and all that kind of stuff. But at the end there, it says that he'll be able to let loose the beast of the field.
Yeah. And
L.A. Marzulli believes in the ancient Greek that means therion. That's the word for it. But he believes that those are the Bigfoot. But then if you go to Luke 21:11, in the original Greek, it says you will see fearful sights. Well, that in the ancient Greek, that's actually phobotron, which means monsters. And then apo means, because it says you will see fearful sights and great signs from the heavens. Well, the original Greek there is apo, which actually means something that will descend from the sky, and then Uranus actually means heavens. So all this, what I'm getting at is I believe we are in the end times, and all this activity is going to increase because, well, first of all, the Bible says so. Jesus says in the last days, it'll be like the days of Noah. And if you go back to Genesis 6 and you talk about the giants and all the crazy things that were spawning, because the fallen angels from the book of Enoch, from my understanding, not only got it on with the human women, but they started perverting all of God's creation
Right.
and started spawning all these different creatures. Because when I first kind of got into this, well, actually, it wasn't that long ago. I was praying. And I'm like, Lord, what exactly are Bigfoot? And he didn't answer me directly. He said, just go look at how many different types of insects there are. So I looked that up. Dude, there's millions.
Right.
The one I looked up was 900,000 plus into the millions.
They'll find
Different
bugs
types
today
of,
they didn't even know about.
right. So there's just so many different creatures that have been hiding themselves, or, they're able to stay out of our sight. Yeah. So I think, like you said, we are in the last days, and we
Yeah.
need to spread this word. We need to keep speaking this narrative. We got so many intelligent people blessed by God to share this
Amen.
narrative. And yeah, we're not forcing our narrative on anybody. It's like we said, yeah, there could be good Bigfoots and bad Bigfoots. I believe even from the book of Enoch, there's something in the book of monsters where, and I got to double check this, but there was a contingency of monsters that didn't want judgment to come upon them. And basically, God said, hey, look, you didn't have a choice in being born. Just as my dad would say, keep your noses clean, keep out of trouble, and the judgment won't be coming down on you because, you can't control being born. So I thought that was wonderful because we've all got a free will and we all have to make that choice. Okay, we're on earth. It wasn't my choice to be born, but what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to stay positive and serve the Lord, or am I going to, migrate to the dark side, so to speak?
Well, not like I said, we're not pushing religion on anybody, but a lot of people know Adam had a wife before Eve, Lilith. Why would she go? Because she was having sex with animals.
Mm. Oh my.
Okay. Boom. She was out. There was people here before Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were the first people spoke of God. Because in Cain and Abel, when Cain killed Abel, he told Adam and Eve, I'm gonna go to the castles of stone to find me a mate. Now, if there were the only two people there, where was he going to meet a mate? So there was other people living, could have been Atlantis.
Wow.
Bigfoots, it could have been whatever it was. And if you watch the movie The Planet of the Apes, that movie comes from Stalin, where he was actually trying to mate a female with an ape to make a super soldier.
Oh my goodness.
And it didn't work. So they tried to impregnate an ape with a woman. Then they took a woman and took from an ape, and it just didn't work out. When I hear you tell me that what you just told me about having sex, in the woods, how many we did a show on NCI about that. These people swear they've been raped, impregnated by Bigfoot.
Yes.
I've never seen any of the babies born. I've never seen, I had a guy in the show saying he's impregnated an alien. They've had babies, and 6 months later, they're teenagers. They grow faster. I mean, excuse me. This is coming out more and more every day.
Mm-hmm.
When the beast comes out of the woods. Now, is it Bigfoot coming after us, or is it the dogman and the werewolf? How many sightings have you heard now about dogman and werewolves? All of a sudden, it's just exploded.
Oh, exactly. Well, even in the last 2 years, 3 different dogman sightings. One was standing in the middle of town, Carroll, Michigan, right over here, in the middle of a church parking lot. The guy cutting the lawn, he's doing his lines, and he turns around, and there's a huge dogman standing there. So,
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And let me say,
dogman walking down the road in the middle of the street at 3:00 in the morning.
And let me say this really quick. Anybody from the outside who doesn't believe in God would say this. Well, if God is so wonderful and good, why is he allowing all this freaky stuff to be happening? Here's my opinion. It is all based on love. God, the Almighty, who creates all things and brings everything into existence, one day, for whatever reason, even though he's outside of time and space and everything physical, said, that to himself that he wanted a family. But the only way he could have a family that weren't a bunch of robots, yeah, he could make people love him, But the only way he could do that would be by giving us free will.
Right.
So he made the angels first. They're kind of our older or elder siblings, so to
Right.
speak. And so many of them were given a free will. They dropped the ball. They left their earthly estate and started getting on with earthly women and all sorts of creatures.
Yep.
And so they kind of blew it. So the Lord says, well, I'm going to make mankind in my own image.
Right.
Now, I really believe that angels are something a little bit different than humans. I know they can take human form, but I believe we as humankind are, made in the physical, I guess, resemblance of God. So Jesus said he was God incarnate in the flesh. So that tells you something. So we were made more in the image of God than the angels were. So you throw this into a melting pot with all this free will. Now, God's got to give everybody a free will in order for it to come full circle
Circle.
and be based, his family to be based on love. So we have to have free will to choose evil or to choose good. And so we can see, and the Bible even says this. It says, what was the purpose of the flood and Sodom and Gomorrah? What does it say? It said that these incidents would be a warning to those in the last days. That they
Right.
basically to know that I'm serious about judgment.
Right.
You aren't gonna be able to do whatever you want for eternity. There is
Right.
gonna come that line in the sand, and I believe we're getting closer and closer. But I believe it was all based on love. God wanted a family, and the only way he could do that would be by giving us a free will, would be
Well,
by having evil and good exist so man could have a free will and choose God on their own.
people, the Bible has been changed so many times, written for man. The earth's been destroyed more than one or two times. It's
Yeah,
been
different
frozen.
ages of man.
It's been frozen. It's been flooded twice. There was
Yep.
a heat of nothing but desert of fire. It's when a fire happens, what happens? New things start to grow.
Yep.
Trees begin to grow again. New life flowers. It's not where they didn't grow before because they didn't have the light of the sun. So when everything got burnt, I don't believe in the last time that the earth flooded that everybody died. I just don't
Okay.
believe that. Only for the fact is the bird, the dove came back with the olive leaf. Okay.
Right.
Well, before the flood, there were giants, correct?
Right. Right.
Before the flood, and if you go to there was Bigfoot. There was on the walls of the caveman. It was in the walls of the Egyptians. It was in the walls of all these pyramids that were built all over the world. So I believe that Bigfoot, again, we had discussion the other night. Is he an alien? Alien? Are the angels? We really don't know what Bigfoot is. But when the animals come, you got to remember, Dogman was a soldier. There were thousands and thousands of dogmen that were soldiers.
Whoa, man, I couldn't believe that storyline. My
I mean,
gosh.
and it says that Paul had a dogman's face in a human body. So, and then you look at Nubius, which the Egyptians had, the wolf.
Oh yeah, Anubis.
Okay, Anubis. Yep. So, the Egyptians didn't put that stuff on the wall because they didn't know what else to do.
Oh, exactly. Like the pictures of the giants. Yeah, oh yeah, there's giants right there. And then let alone, I've talked about this before, the story of Beowulf. There are hints of all this stuff along the way. The Epic of Gilgamesh, Beowulf, all these things, the Greek mythology. Now we believe all that's real. All this stuff is coming out. It's curious that all this was kept hidden, and we've been taught, oh, that's just a story growing up. Well, we're finding out different now.
You remember as a kid, because I'm 62, watching Buck Rogers in the spaceship with a sparkler coming out of the back on a wire. Next thing you know, we're going to the moon.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The first time I ever heard of a cellular phone was in 1980 at Disney World. Before you got on that, the ride, Space Mountain.
Uh-huh.
You'd get on the conveyor belt and it would move you all the way around, and they would stop and say, "This is the home of the future." Where you'll be able to call and talk to your friends without a cord, without having to crank it up. And you'll see your friends who you're talking to. And I'm like, yeah, right. I saw
Wow.
all this in 1980 at Disney World, and it always stuck in my mind. And as the years went by, pagers, and we got the cell phones that were bricks, and we got the cell phones in the bags, cell phones in our cars. Now cell phones are as big as a pack of cigarettes.
Yep.
The flip phone was designed from Captain Kirk. Bloop. Back me up, Scotty. That's where the flip phone came from. So what we're being showed then and being showed today in movies, there's always a hint of truth to all that.
For sure.
If you watch the Avengers or Thor, what are they going through? Portal to come to Earth.
Wow.
The Avengers. Yeah, Stargate. Captain Kirk. If you go back and look at some of the old episodes, Spock and Kurt come through a portal. It was a machine on top of these rocks. And they went back into the 1950s and 60s with Al Capone. Remember those shows?
Yep.
They were talking about portals then. What are we doing now? The government says they have portals. Bigfoot's appearing out of balls of light. I've got a lot of reports where all of a sudden the ball lights this big, comes down to nothing. Boom, here stands Bigfoot. We've got reports from spaceships. Beam of light comes down, Bigfoot's there. Beam of light comes back, he takes off. So,
wow.
And you look at these movies, like the Planet of the Apes was written from Stalin. Raiders of the, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Huh?
Written out of Hitler's diary.
No.
Well, what do they look? The Nazis are looking for the power of Jesus. The crystal skulls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the Nazis were all over the place looking for this power because Hitler said,
Ark of the Covenant. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And it's in all the movies. That came from Hitler's diaries. That's how the movie was written.
So they have known about this for who knows how long. And just now, I guess you'd say the general public is catching up.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I was in Disney, and this is what really sticks in my head, and now they have it, in these new homes, you can walk up to your wall, tell it what you want, and it'll say, okay, I want a Hawaiian beach. The sound, the water's moving. It's just
hologram?
Yeah, holograms.
Wow.
That play on your walls in these new electrical homes. I did a show with a lady from China. It's called Spooky Japan. She says, Randy, let me take you a walk through my house. Now, it was nothing spectacular. She goes into her bathroom. She goes, watch this. 78 degrees, water, hot, boop. 2 gallons, boop. And it runs 2 gallons of water. Her toilet, when she stands up, it's automatic flush, right? Like we have now. She goes in her kitchen. There's no knobs. I need 104 degree temperature water to wash my dishes. 4 gallons. It runs 4 gallons of water.
Wow.
I'm like, it's called the Samsung house. Samsung's making these houses. I seen all this stuff back in 1980 at Disney World.
Finally, we're going to catch up to the Jetsons, is what you're saying.
Vegas has already caught up to it.
Nice.
We actually have, it's called a space patch. It's the buildings are building out on the desert behind the casinos where you will fly in, drop your ship, and get an Uber and take it into the city. And the cars are these new flying cars and motorcycles that we have.
Oh my gosh!
Already being built in Vegas. It's an Elon Mustang, and they're growing crops out there where it's 120 degrees in the middle of the desert and it gets cold at night. It can be 115. You drive out of Vegas and it gets cold. It'll be 40 degrees. You freeze your butt off. Believe me, I know. I've done this. And they got crops growing out there. All these experiments are going on. What we've seen, I will say by 26, 27, everybody be flying cars and motorcycles.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
If you look on the Channel 12, where we all message each other, you know the things they write in Star Wars that stormtroopers are on? Those motorcycles? There's a black one on there that you can buy. They're for sale. Whoa, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's for Return of the Jedi. We first saw those.
Yeah, those are coming to real. Those are coming. They've got other motors. I do a lot of investigation stuff on this. and they've got hover bikes, with the 4 blades like a drone has, picks you
Uh-huh.
up. They're advertising right now. You don't need a license to fly these airplanes. 2-seater, takes off. It's good for 300 miles. Fill it up. No license. Fly, do your thing. Cars. They got a car. When it stops, the wings pop out. The back end opens up. A propeller jumps out, unfolds out of the back. 40 miles an hour. Up you go.
Wow.
This is stuff that's all up
Fantastic.
that will be out in the new car show this year.
Gosh, and I work for Fortnite. It's spectacular. Well, tell you what, Randy, we're going to wrap it up. But what I want you to do right now is, we're just trying to support your Channel 12 TV network as much as we can. What you're doing is the best concept, the best idea. I
Thank
mean,
you.
you're really the wave of the future, in my opinion.
Thank you.
So, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody at home how they can contact you and how they can subscribe to your platform?
Okay, well, before I even go into that, everybody that's watching this channel, not because he's on the NCI show and he's a part of Channel 12, this man here is awesome. He's got a great talk show. I've seen his shows that he's done for, on his other channels. And if you haven't seen, we call him Boom Boom. If you haven't seen Bryan Sawyer, I named him Boom Boom because his hat's BOM. That's the only reason.
And I love it.
I just said Boom, Boom Boom. We're going to call him Boom Boom.
Yep.
Great show, Bryan. Thank you for letting me be on your show. It's been a blessing. But you can catch us at Channel 12 TV Network .nowcast. That's NOWCAST.cc. Channel 12 TV Network .nowcast.cc. Come and check out the NCI show. Come check out Tracy Jones, Paranormal Witch. We've got a Republican Town Hall show. We've got cartoons. We have a lot of talk shows. I just can't remember them all. We have classic cartoons, Bugs Bunny, Tom and Jerry, Spider-Man 1975, the original Spider-Man cartoons. We've got Scooby-Doo. We've got classic movies. We're a wake channel, not a woke channel. We're a freedom of speech channel. What you say is what you get. I'm trying to bring it back to the 70s when TV was TV. We got classic movies like the original Batman from 1943, 36 episodes. We've got Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein with Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., Boris Karloff. Great movies that you can sit down with your kids and not have to worry about a lot of crazy things that's going on in this world today. And I want to thank all our subscribers and those. Please come subscribe. That's how we stay in business. It's $9.99 a month, no contracts. You can cancel at any time. If you want a yearly subscription, you save like $40. It's $99. Normally, we're doing $9.99. It's supposed to be $14.99, but I know times are hard and people want to watch good TV, and there's nothing to watch. Everybody's streaming. You can see us on TV. You can see us on your computer. You can see us on your phone app. We have a phone app on Google. We got a phone app under Apple. So subscribe. Once you subscribe, you can watch us anywhere at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And new content is loaded every day. I know because I do it. I load 2 to 3 new shows, new movies, new cartoons, and it's a great. And please come and see us at Channel 12 TV Network. Believe me, you will not be disappointed in these shows. And Boom Boom on NCI, man, he's like the cherry on top of the ice cream. Without the cherry, it's no good on that Sunday. You can have sprinkles. You can have all the sprinkles you want, but you got to have that cherry on top. He's the cherry on the top. He brings so much to our show. And really, we talk about you all the time. Always good how you're such a blessing to us. And being the president of Channel 12 TV Network and picking out the shows, I'm so blessed that we have you and the other guys and, doing what's right and helping people out. And helping people makes you feel good. Because the Lord says when you give, he'll give it back to you tenfold. It may not be in cash. It might be somewhere else. But just say hello to somebody or say, hey, someone has a bad day. Don't yell. I'm just, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm feeling bad. I'll pray for you. Just a little something. Give somebody some joy in their heart. And believe me, it goes a long way.
Amen, man. You said it all. I'm going to end the episode right there. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you soon.